corruption, because corruption is corruption. It's true, but official was meant to highlight to the extent to which is state-related in many respects and involving state actors in key respects. And on the cost, apart from the quantum that is lost through corruption, we have to also talk about the possible political costs. Because as some of us have commented, this cannot end well at all. The scourge has been so serious. And for us to tackle the topic as we are doing is because it is something that glares in our face. And as social commentators, as political actors, we cannot stand by. We have to do something about it. And perhaps this is all we can do to help ventilate, expose, explain, in the hope that armed with knowledge and those able to do something about this can help us do so. In addition to our request, or rather our plea, which we've made long before, when I did the work on the Christmas scandal some years ago, whereas I insisted that we should not only condemn corruption, but you get the perpetrators to pay back that which they have taken. And so far, we have seen little or nothing of attempts to have these people who have stolen money, public funds, pay it back. And I think it's one of the things that we'd like to put on the table in this discussion. So I call Tendai Biti to start first.
Good evening. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Very clearly, thank you.
All right. Excuse me. I'm in an area with poor network, so I'm afraid that if I put my video and you can see my ugly face, the connection might cut. So if you may forgive me for that, but I can assure you, you won't miss my ugly face. So the issue of corruption in Zimbabwe has become so structural. It's become so embedded in the body psyche of this country. Under Mugabe, you knew that the sole purpose, the primary purpose of the regime was the power retention agenda, the reproduction of power and power at any cost, legally and extra-legally. And this so-called new dispensation, the primary cause for existence is extraction, is looting, is the bottom line. And the state and occupation of the state becomes a mere means to achieving and attaining the holy grail of accumulation. And if you look at the figures, some of which I'm going to outline, hopefully in my short presentation, this has become a pure aristocracy. This has become a parasitic a state that is cannibalizing the state assets, that is cannibalizing state resources. Every department, every ministry is involved in some illicit, activity. Upstream, downstream. It's so enhanced. It's so concrete. It's so structural. When you hear the Prosecutor General, Justice Matanda Moyo, saying that the government itself is losing around $1.6 billion US annually from corruption, that tells you that these are huge figures, because that 1.8 is in fact an understatement. And the fact that we are ranked 160 out of 100 countries on the Transparency Corruption Perception Index is frightening. There are traditionally 7 centers, what I would call commanding heights of looting in Zimbabwe, by what I've previously called the archbishops of corruption in this country. The first portal is fuel, which is traditionally a $2 billion dollar industry, controlled essentially by 2 entities in this country. Then we have foreign, currency. The commodification of the US dollar makes it an inevitable source of corruption, and I'll give some a few details on that. Number 3, and these things are not necessarily in order of importance, is of course our resources. We have world-class resources in the form of platinum, lithium, gold, chrome, and diamonds. And there's massive looting of these resources. If I speak of lithium, daily thousands of trucks are crossing into Mozambique at Forbes border post. Forbes border post is basically uncrossable at the present moment because of these humongous volumes of trucks that are carrying our lithium. And one average 30-ton truck is carrying lithium equivalent to about 3.2 million US dollars of lithium. Gold, we are exporting illicitly through illicit financial flows of gold alone, US $1 billion that is being lost in the country. Diamonds, we have diamond reserves in Manicaland that were supposed to last us for 25 years. They literally lasted us for 5 years, during which period we lost about 15 billion US dollars, a fact that was admitted by the then head of state, RGM Mugabe. So our commodities, our minerals have become a major source of arbitrage. This involves the raw extraction. This involves the illicit allocation of special grants and mining grants. This involves the physical displacement of miners and serious abuse of mining communities. You see villagers being evicted. You see even graveyards being assaulted by foreign interests in our mining interests. And if you look at our mining sector right now, I always say that if you were to work Cecil John roads now, you won't get lost because the levels of extraction that came with the pioneer column are being reproduced today. The characters in the Kwala may have changed, but the model remains the same. Then, of course, you've got procurement, particularly procurement around road contracts, around agricultural inputs, around healthcare supplies, around mining equipment. It has become a huge focus of corruption. Then you've got various forms of subsidies that are given in the economy, which constitutes a serious and massive levels of corruption, including command agriculture. Then you've got the Reserve Bank and its quasi-fiscal activities. For a long time, the Reserve Bank and its quasi-fiscal activities have been at the center of massive looting in Zimbabwe. At one stage, the Reserve Bank quasi-fiscal activities were 35% of gross domestic product. So these are huge numbers. So the things that are making people angry, for instance, the goat scheme, where literally some lumpen elements connected to the ruling party, we've been photographed with the president, allocated $87 billion to acquire goats. Is just a crude expression of the looting that is happening. But there's bigger expression. I don't know if one would speak about the recent case where $1.6 billion US was paid to the shareholders of Kuvimba to pay for the purchase of mines, which were originally Zimbabwean mines. What happened was that a company called Sotic acquired the Zimbabwean mines owned by ZMDC. We then paid 1.6 billion US dollars for those assets that belong to Zimbabwe. So it's crass, it's crude, and is unmitigated. But all of us know that this is the long trend of how this government has been. I remember very young at the University of Zimbabwe demonstrating against things like the Willowgate scandal the Willowgate motor scandal in 1988. Some of you remember in 1987, this was still blasphemous scandal. Some of you remember in 1987, the AIDS scandal involving around US $1 million in 1989. Some of you remember the Z-Therapy Santana scandal, 1994, the War Victims Compensation Fund scandal, where people were claiming disability of 100%, including a vice president. Some of you remember 1994.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and make sure that you ring the bell. And may God bless you and may God bless Zimbabwe. I love you all and bye for now.